If you don't know how to have a powerful conversation with a woman or really anyone that you meet, it can be a really big uphill battle to be able to get a date or even get a second date. So let's talk about how we can master conversation. First, you want to always be focusing on the opening, right? And the opener and starting a conversation is really something that a lot of guys put way too much emphasis on. I think that's the biggest emphasis on any part of conversation. And I get it, because that's the thing that's going to start it. So why would you focus on any other part if you can't even get it started? But you want to focus less on this part because the opener doesn't matter as much. You could literally say whatever you want if you wanted to start a conversation. You can go up and just say hello. One of my favorite openers, if you want to go up and talk to a girl in conversation and get a conversation going, is just, hey, I wanted to come meet you. And then boom, you start conversation and you just go from there. Or maybe you notice something that she's wearing, she's holding, or something that she's doing, and you can comment on that. Or even if you're at a networking event or some sort of party, a great way to start conversation is just going over and saying, hey, what's going on? I haven't met you yet. Or hey, what's going on? I haven't met you guys yet. I haven't met you girls yet. Just going over, being social, starting a conversation, and not having to worry so much about what is the very perfect sentence I need to use. Because I guarantee it, and you can test this out for yourself, that if you go up to a woman and start a conversation, have a conversation with her and grab her number, ask her when you're on a date, or even ask her at the end of that conversation, do you remember what I said when I first came up to you? Some women will remember, most women won't, which proves that it's not so much about the opener as much as it is going over and having the conversation. Let's talk about small talk and big talk, okay? Here's the idea. Small talk is when you're talking about things that don't have much depth, that don't matter as much. People say that the weather is small talk, or where someone is from is small talk, or what they do for a living is small talk. And then big talk is deeper talk. It's really getting to know someone. It's understanding why they feel the way they do about what they do for work, or it's understanding what their history is about in terms of where they grew up and how many siblings they have and how they were raised by their parents and what they enjoy doing and what their passions are. Like, all that is kind of like big talk, okay? So here's the thing. Small talk has a really bad rep. And I'm here to say to you that there is nothing wrong with small talk at all, especially if you're trying to attract a woman. The reason is because it's not so much what you say to a woman. It's how you say it to her, and also the vibe of how you're coming off, right? So for example, you could say the most interesting thing in the world, but if you did it monotone and deadpan, and you had no energy behind you, and you talked like this, and you weren't giving her eye contact, and you see what I'm saying? Like, you were this zombie. It doesn't matter what you're saying. But if you bring the energy, you seem very confident, very sure of yourself, and you're talking about something that is maybe very boring, it doesn't matter, because she's trying to get the essence of who you are. She's trying to understand who you are as a person and the way that you behave. And if she's starting to like you, she's not going to be like, wow, this is the most boring conversation ever. She might say that if she's already just not attracted to you. But if you bring a good energy and you're smiling and you're giving good eye contact and you have good posture and you're talking to her in a way where you're not talking monotone and you talk more in downward tonality, and this conversation is about, hey, what do you do for work? What do you like to do for fun when you're not working? Or you're even talking about the weather, that's totally fine. Now, of course, you don't want to do that the whole time. There is a mixture. That's why when we're talking about mastering the art of conversation, we want to balance the idea of some small talk and some big talk. And I'm here to tell you that you don't have to skip the small talk. In fact, a lot of people, especially my clients who work with us in the Trip Advice Accelerator program, we give them a script to go up to a woman and basically have mostly small talk. And then they're still able to get numbers, and then those women will show up on dates. Again, it's more about how you're presenting yourself to the woman rather than exactly what you're saying. We'll get to big talk here in just a second, but I want you to understand that if you need help with this and you're struggling to master the art of conversation, do not hesitate to book a free call with myself and my team over at the Trip Advice Accelerator coaching program, where you can be able to talk to us about how we can help you and we can present to you some ideas to coach you and get you really good at meeting and attracting women. Go to tripadvicecoaching.com to book that free call with us to learn more. Let's get to some big talk ideas. So big talk is something that you might bring more to a first date. And again, this is going to be talking a little bit deeper and getting to know the person on a more personable level. One thing that I love to reference because it's just so practical and easy is the 36 questions that make a woman love you. You can search this into Google. I even have a video on this. This is 36 questions that was done in a study that showed that two people who were able to ask and answer these questions to each other were able to form a deeper connection. Questions like, what does your perfect day constitute like? And what was it like being raised by your mom? And are you close with your parents? And just things that you're talking about that have to do with a lot of their history and a lot of the things that they want for their future and some of their opinions and ideas of things that are going on in their present. And that's some of the big talk. That's stuff that it's really easy to master if you really just engage your curiosity. That's where big talk, I believe, comes from and is one of the best places. Of course, before you get to that point, before you understand how to do it better, you can use the 36 questions and you can take a couple of those and use them, and then you'll get the idea of what it means. But I like to just be very open about my curiosity, being able to just ask them questions that you're curious about and what is it that you want to know about the person. There has to be something that you're curious about knowing. Go ahead and ask that and don't hold yourself back. Next, I want to talk about utilizing pauses. We're talking about the art of mastering conversation, and pauses are big, okay? Pauses mean that you're not necessarily talking so fast like this. Right now, this is not exactly a conversation. This is a video where I'm talking to you right here. But when you're in a conversation, it's good to utilize pauses, like I'm doing right now. There's a way to speak to someone in a more charismatic way. If you ever watch a president or a presidential nominee or just a really great speaker talk, Martin Luther King Jr., they utilize pauses. And because what it does is it almost sucks someone in a little bit more to the conversation, and it makes what you're saying a little bit more prominent, and it makes the whole conversation more effective because you're able to get their attention. So you don't want to necessarily do it the whole time. One of my best pieces of advice in terms of being a charismatic speaker is someone who can utilize pauses, but also switch up the tone in which they're talking. Sometimes it's okay to talk a little bit fast, and then sometimes it's good to just slow down. But if you're doing too much of one, if you're talking really fast the whole time, you're going to seem nervous. If you're talking really slow the whole time, then that's going to be a little awkward too. So you want to make sure you're utilizing pauses with a combination of utilizing the speed and pace and changing that up within the conversation that you're having. All this is going to take a little bit, okay? So you're going to have to practice this, and that's how you're going to master it even more. Next is balancing how much you're talking about you, because you're going to be talking about you in a conversation. They're going to be talking about themselves, and you don't want to overdo it. But on the other end, you also don't want to add in anything either. Okay, you don't want to be sitting there just listening to them going, wow, they're doing all the work. This is great. I can just listen to them and they don't have to get to know me and I don't have to say anything about myself. That's not true. We don't want that at all. We want them to learn about you. We want them to understand who you are. So it's about that balance. You do not need to have to be perfect with this. You don't need to have a running tally of a timer in your head of, well, I talked about me for 5 minutes and now she's talking 5 minutes. You'll get the idea. It's more of this just being a conscious thought in your head. So when you're talking to someone and they've been talking for a while and you haven't gotten much talking in, or you haven't really talked about yourself a lot and they haven't been asking you questions, you might want to start offering some of that up. You might want to start getting yourself in there. Or if you're in a conversation and you realize that you've been talking a lot and it's all about you, even though they might be really intrigued in asking you questions, you still want to balance it out and ask about themselves. There should be some sort of balance there so it becomes a conversation where you both are getting to know each other, and that's going to help a ton with attraction. And even if it's in a networking sense and it's not with a girl, at least you feel like, hey, you got to know them, they got to know you, and it was a fruitful conversation. Next, you don't want to be too agreeable. The art of conversation and mastering conversation is not going to be so you can be someone who is just saying yes and agreeing to everything that the person says, like a person who is trying to be a nice guy, where the nice guy tendency might be like, I don't want to put any sort of friction into the relationship here and into this conversation. So everything they like, I'm going to say I like. Everything they don't like, I'm going to say I don't like. If they have something in their life that they like to do or have to do, or something with work, and then I want to agree with it, then I should agree with it, and I should say the same things, and everything should be similar. That's not real conversation. That's a manipulative conversation, and it's not reality, because two people are rarely the exact same person. It makes the conversation more interesting when you have some differences. Of course, it's okay to have similarities. You don't want to lie either, right? It's like, you don't want to say, oh, I learned about conversation, I shouldn't be too agreeable. Well, no, if they like something and you like something, that's okay. But you don't want to be doing that the whole time, okay? You want to be having a more natural conversation where you can speak about your opinions, you can say the differences, maybe even make it fun by being able to tell them like, oh, you don't like this? Oh, this is the reason why you should like this, and this is awesome, and wow, you've never been to Australia? Like, you gotta go there. Like, I can't believe you don't travel. Like, whatever it is, it can make the conversation even a little bit more polarizing, which keeps it more interesting because you two are not the exact same. And then to really take conversation to the next level, obviously you want to bring in some elements of seduction and flirting. There's a video right here on the screen where I talk about these 4 mindsets that you need for seduction and how to make it more effortless. So watch that video right there. And if you need more help, go to tripadvicecoaching.com, where we can teach you how to master the art of conversation through a coaching program to make sure that you do it right and be able to attract the women that you want.